One morning, Paddington was having breakfast in bed when he came across a very interesting article in one of his magazines. It was called Delight Your Family and Surprise Your Friends, and it showed how to make a magazine rack. All you needed was a sheet of plywood, a hammer, a saw, and a few nails. It sounded very good value indeed. One thing the article hadn't mentioned was how to carry a sheet of plywood and a box of tools at the same time. If it had, he might not have bumped into the Browns' neighbour, Mr. Curry.
"Bear!" bellowed Mr. Curry. "What are you doing, Bear?"
"Do it yourself, Mr. Curry," said Paddington.
"What's that? How dare you?"
"Oh, no, Mr. Curry. I didn't mean you were to do it yourself. I meant I'm going to do it myself. I'm making a magazine rack. Look."
"Magazine rack? Yeah, I'd like a magazine rack, Bear. I'm going out now, so you can use my kitchen table to work on, but don't make too much mess. I don't like messes. If you have it ready for me by the time I get back, I may not report you for banging my nose just now."
"Thank you very much, Mr. Curry." Paddington had never actually sawn anything in two before, and he soon discovered it wasn't as easy as it looked. In fact, it got harder and harder. It wasn't until he sat down for a much-needed rest that he discovered why. Mr. Curry now had two small tables with only 2 legs each, instead of one large table with 4 legs. It was really almost beyond repair. Even covering the join with marmalade and drawing the blind couldn't disguise the fact that it was also very wobbly. Paddington decided he had an emergency on his paws. But when he stood up in order to survey his handiwork, he had yet another shock. Mr. Curry's table seemed to have shrunk. In fact, he couldn't remember ever having seen such a short table before. "Delight your family and surprise your friends," he said bitterly. Paddington was quite sure Mr. Curry would be surprised when he saw what was left of his table, but as for delighting the Browns with a magazine rack, that seemed very far away. Mrs. Bird, however, was delighted with what he'd made them. "Most useful," she said. "And how thoughtful to make 2, agreed Mrs. Brown. Yes, said Paddington, "but I'm afraid they're not both for you. This one is really Mr. Curry's, but I'm not giving it to him yet. I shall leave it on his doorstep after dark." "After dark?" repeated Judy. "Whatever for?" "I can guess," said Jonathan. "Look out of the window."
"Bear!"
roared Mr. Curry. "Well, Paddington?" "Perhaps I'd better make Mr. Curry a present of my tools as well," said Paddington. "I don't think I shall be doing it myself again for a long time."